everyone, Dylan here, and welcome to the channel. Alright, if you're familiar with the channel, you know the drill. In case you're not, I'm catching up on some old Raws because basically since Mania I've kind of been out of the game. So here is the May 19th edition, which I think, if my math is right, that was last week, was it not? No, that would be, yeah, that would be last week. Okay, cool. So we're going to do last week's episode. I don't know if I'm just going to break it down from there or just post them randomly. But anyway, let's crack into last week. They show us the arena. I wrote down what it was, but that looks like a word that's non-existent. But it's arena in Greensville, South Carolina that they're in. They recap what happened between Sammy Punk, Jay versus Seth's group like last week and maybe the week before. But again, I don't know what's going on, so no spoilers. I mean, I know about the group. I think the last one I reviewed was the Raw after Mania where this group became a thing. Alright, after that, everybody else arrives. We see everybody arriving for tonight. And then we start off the show with a Paul Brothers segment, which I 100% skipped. All I know is that I picked up where Gunther came out. He belittled the Paul brother for thinking that he can beat Jay, and by proxy presumes that he can beat Gunther. He talks about how the Paul brother is a smart businessman, but for him to beat Jay Uso, it is personal for him. If the Paul brother beats Jay and takes away that opportunity for Gunther to get his revenge, he will take that as disrespect. So Gunther leaves the ring after saying that. The Paul brother tries to say something stupid like, hey, why are you leaving or whatever. And he tries to start like smack talking him. Jay comes from behind, kicks him in the face, and says that he'll see him Saturday and he'll see Gunther in Phoenix. Which, by the way, I think Phoenix is where Money in the Bank is. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what we're doing. After that, we transition into a package showing what happened last week between the women's tag team champions, maybe, but there was also just a women's tag team match. It shows that Julia and Roxanne lost, and then like Roxanne's trying to get them up as a team, saying we need to do this, we need to do that, and Julia's like, what is this we stuff? And then it transitions from that into Roxanne Perez signing her contract for Raw. And by the way, during the graphic for the qualifiers later on tonight, they mentioned that Julia has signed for SmackDown. That sucks, because I really wanted to see Julia. Not saying I don't want to see Roxanne Perez, I do. But I also wanted to see Julia, and I don't... Ooh, Pumpkin just fell. And I don't have cable to watch SmackDown. So who knows, maybe I'll eventually invest in a VPN so we can actually get everything like chronologically uploaded. After that, we have Penta and AJ Styles versus the Judgment Days, Finn and JD. Before that happens, though, Jey Uso's backstage, and Paul Heyman's just waiting for him. He says a lot of words, and in between those words, he says fact, 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 which I think is Jay's like catchphrase, or the one they're trying to work for Jey Uso. So it's like he was mocking him. He says that people think that he stabbed Roman and Punk in the back, but later on tonight, when Breakker goes against Jay, Breakker isn't going to take his title because it's a one-on-one match, but Seth will have it back in time. Also, he didn't stab Roman and Punk in the back. And like I said, he said facts in between all this, but I thought it was just really annoying. I get the premise of it, but me personally just thinks that's annoying. So I'm not going to just insert a random statement here. Fact. Insert a random statement here. Fact. I'm not going to do that. That's redundant. Alright, so back to that match we were talking about. They have like a legit 30-minute match. Everyone goes to the outside near the end, and they do like their little everybody hits a signature or finisher on everybody. Penta ends up winning that, hitting a code red off of the steps, or I guess he calls it it's a Canadian destroyer, but he calls it a Mexican destroyer. Yeah. But he hits it on somebody, and he's like going to get up against the barricade, be like, yeah, I did it, yeah. But El Grande Americano ends up grabbing him from behind in the crowd, and he hits him with that loaded mask, that dang loaded mask. Finn sees this, take advantage of it, rolls him into the ring, and hits him with a coup de grace for the win. not the coup de grace. After that, Kathy Kelly interviews Io Sky about her thoughts on the Money in the Bank qualifying match coming up and the Money in the Bank as a whole. She says that she knows what it takes to be in the Money in the Bank because she won one, but it doesn't matter who wins because she's the genius of the sky. She tries to do the head pointing thing, but she gets cut off by Becky, who says that she's never beaten her one-on-one, but Becky's beaten her one-on-one, and she isn't afraid to put down another champ, just like Lyra. Cameraman then follows her out to the ring, which I love this shot every time. Thank you for continuing that. Then we get the triple threat between her, Natalya, and Roxanne Perez. But before that match happens, Seth finds the Paul brother backstage to tell him that if he ends up winning the title, he'll know who to thank for softening Jay, and maybe in return he'll get a title shot out of that. In the background as they're leaving, the New Day is talking to Grayson Waller. I think they're trying to do like a dissension angle between Grayson and Theory. Or let me rephrase, they've been trying to do this for like a year. I think they're finally like going through with it. So yeah, back to that match that happened. Natalya almost wins at the end. She has Becky in the sharpshooter near the ropes, but Lyra appears out of nowhere, pulls Becky out of the ring. During that, Natalya gets like off balance, and that's enough for Roxanne to hit her with the Pop Rock, which is a Canadian destroyer, and she gets the 3 off of that. Becky and Lyra brawl up the ramp, and Roxanne just boasts about her win and points towards the Money in the Bank. So don't get me wrong, it's 1,000% going to be Rhea winning this Money in the Bank. Spoiler alert, by the way, for later on in the show. But also, just how much they're investing in her. I could see her either winning it next year or maybe being the swerve winner. I'm okay with either option. After that, we see Jay and Sammy talking. Sammy's just hyping Jay up. Then we see the other women getting ready for their match later on. But before that happens, we get Sheamus versus Grayson Waller. It always makes me happy to see Sheamus on the screen. Before that match, though, Tozawa asks for a one-on-one against Rusev. He gets his wish. Chad Gable comes in and antagonizes him for that and says, who knows, maybe this will actually destroy American Alpha and they'll actually leave. They get into it for a second, and then Maxine's like, oh, he's not worth it, and they leave. Chad Gable asks Adam Pearce for a qualifying match for him and Ivy for the Money in the Bank. He doesn't say yes or no to that, but then the New Day walk in, and they say sorry about what they're going to do to their boys next week, which, by the way, next week, American Made has a tag team title match. They get into it, but kind of not really. And then Pierce eventually just says, hey, you guys can discuss this in the hallway, not in here. Get out. All right, back to that match. Sheamus wins with a bro kick. This crowd was hot for him. I'm happy for him. Austin Theory laughs at Waller for losing to add to that dissension angle. I appreciate it. I can't wait to see the payoff for it. After that, we see Kathy Kelly interviewing Gunther, asking if his game plan is different. He can't even say anything, though, because Seth immediately cuts him off and lets him know that he's proud of the work he did with Seth's title. Gunther interrupts him and says that he's short-sighted because the future around here is Gunther, not Seth. Seth then tells him if he has the title around his waist, he will make himself a target, to keep that in mind, and Gunther says that he is just eagerly waiting for Seth to make him a target. Alright, after that, we get a very cringe-worthy triple threat between Rhea, who, by the way, is over as fuck with this crowd. I want to make my note right now, because my opinion's relatively speaking the same, but Rhea does it... how do I word this? I don't hate Rhea Ripley's character. I hate her constantly having the title Super Cena Edition. I think having her in a chaser position or even giving her a mid-card title would be great, but having her as the only person who can keep that flipping title is kind of watering down her character, in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, she's over as fuck, so my opinion doesn't really matter. She gets a massive pop. I still like Rhea, so, don't come after me. But yeah, her opponents are Kairi Sane and Zoey Starks. I want to 100%, again, sounds like backtracking, but just kind of clarify myself here. I'm not saying the match itself was cringe. I'm saying there was a spot where Zoey got fucked up, and that made me cringe. So, from what I've heard between commentary and just online stuff, the spot was like Rhea and Kari got into it, and then, well, this is the part you can see. Rhea and Kari got into it, and she's on the opposite end of the ring. Kari is supposed to be like a little bit over, but she wasn't close enough. So, Zoey is jumping from the top rope, I think, is what commentary said. And you can hear her yell out Kari, but she doesn't make it far enough, and she ends up fucking blowing her knee out, which, that sucks. Hope she's okay. Hope she can have a healthy and speedy recovery. That sucks. It made me cringe more because you can audibly hear her scream, both for Kari to be there to, like, eat it, and also just, like, the pain of her correcting herself mid-course. You can audibly hear her scream out in pain, and God, it makes me wince just thinking about it. Anyway, I don't know how to segue from that, but Rhea ends up winning this match with a riptide to Kari for the win. She qualifies for the Money in the Bank, and right there, we basically know who's going to win. After that, Rusev gets a pre-taped package where he says that he was just trying to fix Tozawa, just like he ended up fixing himself. But who is Tozawa to challenge Rusev? He says that he will forgive his stupidity and forget his existence after next week. After that, we see Braun Breaker come into the ring with Paul Heyman. But before that happens, the Judgment Day are in their clubhouse celebrating their win. Then Roxanne comes backstage and Raquel has a problem with it. Finn says that Dom was right, that they need more numbers, so he brought her in to help with the women. He says that she is just a temporary member. She's not an actual member. She's an honorary member is the word I was looking for. Roxanne says that she's just trying to find her place because she just arrived on the main roster. But she ended up getting them gifts. She got everybody not named Raquel a gift. She gives the boys apples and chicken tendies respectfully, and Raquel dismisses her. After that tension, we see Jay versus Breaker, where Paul Heyman, towards the end, goes up on the apron, and that is enough of an opportunity for Braun Breaker to grab a steel chair. He tries to use it when he gets back into the ring, but Jay super kicks him. I'm not sure if he super kicked him or the chair, but he kicks one of them. Breaker goes down. He goes to dive, do a suicide dive on him, but as he's running off the ropes, Paul Heyman ends up grabbing his foot. That second distraction was enough to piss Jay off, so he goes after him. And as Paul's running backwards, he ends up taking off his jacket, pretending like he's going to fight him, whatever. And he sticks up his hands. As soon as he does, Rollins comes from behind, jumps Jay, gets a DQ win. They get into a brawl, and the numbers gets the most of Jay until Sami Zayn comes out. He hesitates at fighting them just because of the numbers advantage until Punk comes out, gets a massive pop because the crowd starts building to it, and then they do it. The crowd ends up chanting his song afterwards, and they end up going into the brawl with that. That was kind of cool. And then after that happens, they brawl into the crawl, and as the credits are rolling, Jay grabs his title in the middle of the ring, and then gets knocked out with the brass knuckles by the Paul brother to end the show. Overall, I would like to say this show was pretty good. That was a pretty good hype show. Maybe, again, that month-long break I took from WWE was necessary so that way I could actually have, passion for it again. But, jeez, man, that was a good episode. Today would have been the day for what was last night? 5/26's Raw review, but I still haven't watched Saturday night's main event yet, so I'm trying my hardest not to get spoiled. I've already seen a couple things here and there that spoiled it, but didn't massively spoil it. So after I watch Saturday night's main event, I'll upload tonight's Raw. And who knows, if I have enough time without making a promise, maybe making a tease, I might have a gift for you all Wednesday too. All I can just say is tune in, chill out, I'll see you down the road.